I'm here today with Scott Register, VP Product Management. Welcome, Scott.
Thank you.
Hey, Scott, what are the key components of an architecture that's intended to provide highly resilient security?
Primarily, you cannot have a single point of failure. There can't be any one thing that takes your network down. And the range of things, that you're at risk from can be pretty large. It can be anything from equipment failure to a software upgrade, when you have to take something down to update it, unplanned failures. There are lots of things that can impact your uptime. So your set of exposures is fairly large, and you want to make sure you build a system that can recover from any of those.
Okay, what happens if you don't have such an architecture?
Downtime. I mean, that's the number one risk, right? Is you're off the network, and whether it's your website, your e-commerce site, your users can't do their work, whatever it is, if your security architecture is down, typically that means your network is down. You can't get to the internet, or the internet can't get to you. And so if it is not resilient, something will happen, planned or otherwise, and you will be down.
Now, Scott, functionality such as taps, bypasses, network packet brokers, they're all part of the foundation of the security architecture. But how does that all work together? Are they the same, different?
Those devices, taps and bypass switches and network packet brokers, they serve slightly different roles, and they sort of work up the network stack from taps, which are, and bypass switches, or you could think of as more intelligent but inline versions of taps, and the network packet brokers are the most functional. They're programmable. They can be very smart about things like load balancing and failover and resiliency, and they let you do things like be very flexible in how you recover from different kinds of failure. If this device fails, I want to take the load that was being sent to that and redistribute it across the surviving devices, for instance.
Now, can you give me an example of a company that's developed this kind of an architecture, and what were the benefits?
A very large database provider you'd be familiar with, they've standardized on the Ixia resiliency architecture, and they use it at every single site, every single network site, all their web presence, and the result has been basically no downtime, right? Because when they have, whether it's scheduled system upgrades or network events, things like that have taken their security gear out of service for one reason or another, their networks have stayed up and running. The users, in fact, see no impact whatsoever. When you can measure time in terms of dollars, then it's very important that that happens, that you have that kind of uptime all the time.
Can you give me some idea of some best practices in both creating and enforcing such an architecture?
I'd say that the number one principle is designing resiliency into the system. Make sure you have a redundant everything, and you want to make sure that failover is automated. You want to make sure that no person has to take action to get things back up and running, and don't ever assume without testing that things will work correctly. So stand up a model of the architecture and go through lots of scenario testing. Pull power cords, pull network cables, do all the things that you don't expect to happen but might happen, so that the system is thoroughly tested before you put it into production.
Hey, Scott, that's great insight. Thanks for being here today.
My pleasure.